So, welcome to our Threads of Success podcast, where we engage with accomplished solo fashion entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders, shedding light of their journey and their digital transformation efforts to drive business growth. So, today we have with us two sisters, Dipna and Dipti, the innovative minds behind the brand Love the World Today, which is a sustainable clothing brand for children made with natural fibers, organic fabrics, hand-woven fabric by artisan weavers across the country, and also created with 200% more love and purpose. So that's from my side, Dipna and Dipti. I'd love to hear from you how you define your brand, and tell me a little bit about yourself and the brand.
Hi, Amit. Thank you for having us over on this podcast. So I think you've pretty much summed up what we do. Uh, so Love the World Today is a brand that Dipti and I started in 2015. We both don't come from the fashion industry, and I think what was exciting for us was that there was a massive need gap in the market for kids clothing in India. And the second aspect for us was also looking at, clothes which are made sustainably. So sustainably, when we say, I think for us, it's also to contextualize it in where we stay and where we come from. So for India, I think, we're a textile-rich country. However, I feel that a lot of the artisans and weavers weren't getting their due. So for us, it was very critical to also look at textile craft and sustainability in that sense. So that was a big piece of how we wanted to build the brand and sort of introduce these textiles to children at a very young age.
Yeah, and I think somewhere also, of course, identifying the need, but somewhere also it came from a space of, a personal need. Like for me, I had my daughter around the same time in 2012, and I used to honestly struggle, with clothes for children, which were child friendly, which had child friendly fabrics. The dyes were, a low impact and things like that, or clothes which were just comfortable and let children just be little. And that I felt like was a big gap. I would never find such clothing in India at that point in time. A lot of homegrown brands then cropped up, post 2015. But before that, we didn't have much, and that was a space, personal need that I felt strongly, which was
Okay.
missing in the market at that point in time.
Okay, so if I may ask, like a little bit before that, I think I'd read about you were doing some blogging at that point. I think Dipna, you are doing, and you guys not from fashion background. So how did you kind of decide to do fashion? Because probably the emotional connect led you to start in the children's segment, probably. But why fashion? And because back in 2015, was that any challenges because you guys are not from the industry?
So Love the World Today actually used to be a fashion blog. It was just
Yeah.
it's a passion project for me, and I've always been interested in the space of fashion. Which I now, when I look back, I realize that for me, what always struck a chord was having a sense of individuality and creativity through the clothes that we wear. And I think it is. I'm also an educator, so I work extensively with children. And like I mentioned, the fashion blog was just like a side project for me, which I used to enjoy. But when I was working with kids, I work as an arts educator. So I was doing a theater unit, and we were building a whole thing using trash as our start point. And so I was reading extensively. And I think at some point during that research, I also came across everything that happens in the fashion industry.
Okay.
And that's a massive eye opener for me because I also had very consumerist habits, right? And then I started questioning everything that I was consuming in terms of where is it made, how long does it last, all those little details. And at the same point when Dipti as a parent was struggling to find quality clothing for her child, and most of her, my niece's clothes would probably come from US, when say our cousins would come. And that made us realize that why are these options not readily available in India, apart from a few, solid brands. But then if you want something beyond that, then where do you go? And also when you look at a lot of these clothes that are coming from abroad also, they're actually, a lot of them are made in India and the cotton is sourced from India. So then you wonder, why are we not getting this quality here? And I think that became a very interesting intersection point for Dipti and me to say that, hey, She feels like there aren't enough kids clothing brands in India doing good work, and I felt like also there are not enough brands that are focusing on sustainability and the environment at its core. I
Yeah.
mean, one aspect is how you make, but I think the more you dig deeper, you also start questioning the entire value chain. The material that you're using to make, how are you sourcing it, who is making it, where are they making it, what conditions are they making it, how much are how much is everybody in the chain making in terms of value, and what happens to these clothes once people are done using them, especially in the kids market, because kids outgrow clothes so easily. So how can you bring in those solutions for them? And
Yeah.
also because everything is moving digital, then what are you looking at in terms of packaging?
Yeah.
Because I mean, at any point in time, if I have to be very transparent with you, it is impossible to be 100% sustainable in the day and age that we live in. But
Yeah.
awareness is essential. Ethics are critical, because eventually the planet won't remain for anybody then. And
Yeah.
that's
Definitely.
concerning.
Definitely. And well, like, do you feel that when you started, because India has been very late to adopting the sustainable and organic and this, concept, and still I think India is lacking a lot behind the rest of the world. So when you started, did you focus on Indian market only, or you started like globally, a global focus as well, or how did you kind of perceive the Indian market to be? What you felt, was there a real need in scale, like in India back then?
I think when we started off, because it was such an unknown area for us.
Yeah.
We started, of course, with the domestic market, but knowing very well that the demand is very high abroad, the customers are more evolved abroad. If we land up ever, moving or switching gears, it will have huge potential when we look at the market abroad. But I think it also came from a space of being able to provide the Indian crafts and what we have as culture to our own audience first. And because it was such a clean slate and we were starting from scratch, we were figuring out things by ourselves. We were trying to understand, what are textiles, what are the kind of crafts across states. There was so much that was, available to do. I think when we started off, we didn't give it that much thought, but we just went with the flow. A lot of learning happened on the go, whether it was, understanding GSM, the count of fabrics, and I'm sure we
Yeah.
would have had these conversations at the start, and a lot of learning happened on the go for us. So
Okay.
in production, whether it's tech packs, patterns, talking to master, figuring a lot of things. I think our first 2 years was so concentrated in getting our product right and the quality right and our offering right, and also ensuring that the entire value chain we're able to make some impact, because our
Yeah.
goal is very clear in our head, in our mind, in our heart. We were like, sustainability is at the core of whatever we do. So for us, it was very important to first get these pieces of the puzzle right.
Yeah.
With respect to our offering. Once we got that, and then when we figured, okay, what is happening in terms of demand, and where do we see potential for our brand to grow? So domestic, yes, I think that's how we started off. But I think the website was, the brand was chanced upon by many people outside of the country who have been very generously ordering off the website. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think we also had the clarity that what we're trying to do is not just sell a product that is consciously made, but also to have conversations with the buyers and bring about a mindset change. Because at that point, when we started, the market didn't exist in the space of sustainability, like you rightly said.
Yeah.
Today, people are more aware. So
Yeah.
it's all about creating that space in the market for ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of work was done there. Now I think the problem is the other way, where there's so much greenwashing that there needs to be education also for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think domestic became our sort of unconscious focus somehow, and yeah.
I think at the time when I became a parent, there was a lot of talk around, alternate schooling, cloth diapering, a lot of things going back to the roots. Organic food became very big. We also started going to the farmers market, picking up from the
Yeah.
farmers directly. There's so much that started happening in this space that
Yeah.
it was also an interesting, like Dipna said, it was also about having conversations with parents or people in the same space, whether connected with children,
Yeah.
about what sort of a future we're going to leave back for the children. And that's something which sparked like, okay, we have to do something in this space. And that's how I think we found our tribe and our community of young parents.
In fact, that was also one of the reasons we consciously chose to start with kids clothing, because I feel that the one point in life when people really think through all their choices is when they have kids.
Yeah.
So if you have to make a larger impact, talk to parents. They're thinking of kids, and in turn they'll start thinking for themselves, and you have a whole family that's now, probably shopping more consciously.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, the kids market has like totally been right now getting built in India around food or whatever put on the kids' skin or clothing. Everything is now more conscious. And if I may ask, like when you started, like apart from because you come from that community, your parents, and that probably one of the community you tapped into, but it was how did you acquire like initial few customers? What was your strategy apart from the friends and family?
You have to hear this is very interesting.
Okay.
So we started work on the brand in June 2015. Okay, both of us no knowledge of textile, nothing. We've hand drawn, the garments. We have actually sketched what we want to create. We have figured fabrics. We were very clear. We had to work with natural, organic cotton, herbal dyes. We had lovely people from the industry who did mentor us for our first 2-3 collections, and we went and we created this beautiful collection. Okay, good decent amount of quantities. And we figured shop because thankfully we are very tech savvy that way, Dipna and I. And we also coming from a corporate background for 14-15 years, we were able to figure our basics and get things right. So we created our website on Shopify. Shopify was a big, was just taking off
Starting
there that time. Not many homegrown brands were digital. There weren't any homegrown brands at that point. Very like handful. Even like your Marks and Spencer, whatever, the big brands were not there digitally. They were all online, like in a big way, post
pantaloons and all those.
Nothing was there online. We've gone ahead, we've created a website on Shopify. Everything is done by ourselves. Like beautiful website. I was very proud of what we created though, if you have to ask me now. And I think I was also proud of the courage we had. Overnight we launched, I think 7th October or
all being nice.
Yeah, whatever. 7th October we have launched, and Dipna and I have sat on the dining table through the night waiting for orders to come. And we got orders, on the first day. So it was amazing because what we did was we initially only tapped Facebook communities. The mother communities on Facebook, that was our base for promotions. We kept talking about it. We kept introducing organic clothing. We spoke about things that concern us as parents or, as somebody who closely works with children. And that's how we were talking about Love the World today. And we had an initial and in fact, when we launched, we already had like 300 or 400 followers on Instagram at that point in time.
Yeah.
So it was amazing because and the first pop-up period was in the month of October only, the Little Fleas what we did in Bombay. And I think we were sold out with 60 or 70% of the stock we had created. So that gave us a big boost, So I think completely organic was how we approached it at that point in time.
Yeah, and I think these three, I think slowly, those were the good old Instagram days, when
low cost ads and
making videos and content. And I think what was great was that even when Facebook ads came about, I don't know if it was great or, I mean, at this point, I would say it was good because we didn't dive into any sort of paid marketing at that point. So the base of our, followers or customers, etc., the initial was so authentic, was so genuine that then became the building block for us. So,
I think until we had 20K followers or something, we were not doing any ads or promoting. So the entire base was an authentically, organically built base.
You got your power users initially itself, like core users, whom you can get feedback and everything.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, that means there is a market, so that's kind of proves.
We got emails from random people talking about how they have done something like this for their children, and when older people wrote to us in the first week of launching the brand that I wish my child was young because I never had this as options for my children at that point in time. So we realized that there was an unsaid need. Maybe not in terms of sustainable clothing, because that as a concept and awareness was still aesthetically, what we were able to offer, which was very and the quality, of course. Those two things.
And I think it's also about what you asked earlier, that was it, because in India the market is now developing. I actually feel that traditionally this wisdom has been there about sustainability, about
Yeah.
quality, about using certain dyes or hand woven textile. I think this knowledge has been there. It's just that we need to re-tap into that.
Yeah, yeah. It's been there. I think before 2000, I think the handspun and khadi and all those has been very readily available. And it was more talked about, just cheaper than what you find nowadays at
Absolutely.
that moment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Also,
there's been shift happened. Yeah.
the image of these of these textiles has been for some reason tarnished as very boring and this that. I think so that was essential for us to shift and bring fun prints and colors and
Mm.
Designs, yeah.
So
Okay. And how is the product range has evolved or business has evolved from then, in the sense of like number of, are you only focusing on still kids or clothing, or have you evolved into uh, expanded that?
I think as you grow, you have to evolve the brand also, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think when you start, you probably start with something. Maybe within in the kids category or kids space. Like when we started with only occasional clothing because our clothes came at a slightly higher price point. So
Mhm.
people perceived it to be something which was for an occasion at that point in time. And then they started realizing, okay, these beautiful cotton clothes are good for regular wear also. So we saw this shift with our communication and our education also. People started, picking more of LTWT in their wardrobe for their children. But as we grew, I think the idea for the brand is that we want to ensure that whatever you need for your child from a age, say 0 until 12, 13, you get it under Love the World today. So if you want to be somebody who wants to have a more sustainable wardrobe for your child, want to think before you consume, then this is a great option because whether you look at sleepwear, occasion wear, regular wear, whatever you need. We also have some other partner brands on our website which also do, undergarments for children, for example. So everything that you may require in the kids
Okay.
category, you will find it under Love the World today. I think eventually when we over the last 1 year, we've also seen a demand for our textiles being appreciated by parents and they wanting to own clothes in the same textiles for themselves also because they have seen how it is on their child's skin and how comfortable they are and how long they've been actually being able to wear it without creating a fuss. Beautiful cotton clothes. So I think that as a demand we did see on the rise, and we are now providing twinning options for
in
parents
fact, I
as
would
well.
say that earlier we were still doing twinning, right?
Yeah.
When we started out, but now we're
Yeah.
focused on building a wider range for men, women.
Okay.
So
The whole
yes,
parents. Yeah.
they
Yeah,
can
not
Yeah.
less.
Kids.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. And at the moment, like right now, you have evolved. You are doing, I think, pop-ups have been doing for a long time, and pop-ups there. So, uh, what all the sales channels do you currently utilizing, and what is the process they follow to approach? Is it more offline, online, or both? Uh, how are you diversifying the sales channels? Yeah.
I think since the time we started, our idea was very simple to be able to sell from our own website
Mm-hmm.
and maximize that as a platform. Simply because, as a brand, with the pricing that we work with, we are very competitive in terms of pricing for sustainable clothing, I would say. And because our margins are thin, because you want to make your brand accessible to more and more customers, you want people to move to more sustainable options. So you can't really alienate your customers, right? You have to work at price points that will work well for parents. We then therefore the website made a lot of sense because then you're not shelling out commissions or cutting on your margins to be able
Yeah.
to sell.
Yeah.
Therefore, our focus was always building our own platform to sell. That's always been our focus. That will remain our focus. However, today's time you can't just have that as a channel. I mean, there's post pandemic you see offline being picked up significantly. So of course, offline marketplaces, wholesale. I mean, we have all the channels. Love the World today is available across the board.
Also, I think when you're working with limited resources, then being available on other platforms or retail stores also gives you the chance to reach more people.
Yeah.
So then you have to be very clear in your head as to what channel is supporting you in what way.
Yeah.
Because there might be a possibility that one channel is not giving you, enough margins, but it might be giving you a reach. It's also
Hmm.
important to build.
Okay, and if you have to like prioritize, because probably at the beginning probably you have limited resources, but as you grow you have to prioritize, because there's so many things you can do. Like you're doing offline pop-ups across multiple cities, and then you can go to trade fairs, probably you can go to reach retail stores, which is offline, and then online marketplaces. How do you prioritize, because they also need a lot to carry a lot of inventory, which is cost for you, those kind of things. So how do you like balance that? You have to prioritize what works best in this segment.
Hmm. So, I mean, most places things are ready to ship where inventory is actually lying with us. It's a dropship
Mhm.
model. Whether you look
Okay.
at marketplaces and all, so you don't technically have to have um, inventory parked at various places as such. I
Yeah.
think that's the beauty of digital and marketplaces and how the things work. I think over time, as a brand, as we have grown, we have figured what is that number that works for us for every collection. Of course, it's taken us a little while, a lot of errors, like on the way. But right now, I think we have figured that number, which works,
Mhm.
which helps us have adequate stock in hand to be able to be available across all of these, channels right now.
Okay, it's more of inventory.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Because see, right now for us, everything is made beforehand. We're
Yeah.
not a made-to-order brand. So
Yeah.
therefore, it is we have to be really smart as to how much we are producing because you don't want to be left with dead stock.
Inventory, yeah, their stock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, and you have to have, I think, some bit of planning also, because I mean, you sit on data, right? And you understand that, okay, certain months work better, the
Yeah.
demand is more, and in certain months the demand is better in certain markets. And then you can also tap into that data to understand, okay, if I do a pop up in this location in this month, there's a higher chance of return. So,
Yeah.
or you tap into such data also, and also, I mean, you have to allocate marketing budgets for every quarter to say, okay, this,
Mm.
this is how much I can allot. So, do I want to push it online or offline and pop-ups, etc. I think,
Mm. Got it. Okay.
now everything is so dynamic that every strategy has to change every 3 months to see how things
Yeah.
are doing.
Yeah.
Very interesting because when we started and how Instagram was back then to how it is
Mhm.
now,
Mm.
itself tells you that you have to figure more places to sell. At a certain point in time when we started, I think first 2 years you could easily thrive on Instagram with free, no money spent on advertising,
Yeah.
organic
Outreach was pretty good. Yeah.
engagement, organic sales, but you can't do that anymore. So I think
Yeah.
that as a strategy has to evolve
yeah.
every 3 months, I would say, for the brand.
Okay. And on that regard, like if you're doing paid budgeting, how would you like allocate the budgets? Like, is it, as you said, it's gonna change over the years, but did you like consistently have been investing through Instagram or Google, or and then offline marketing probably 50-50? How do you like allocate the budget?
So digital, I mean, if you have to in today's scenario sustain,
Mhm.
digital of course becomes the biggest share for you in terms of spends. Whether so your Meta or your Facebook, WhatsApp, and all of those tools, of course, become the biggest chunk for you. Uh,
Yeah.
I would say that about 60 to 70% budgets would be allocated there because for us, also because for us, see, I think it's also brand specific. We are very clear that we want to
Yeah.
build our website as a main place of sale.
Yeah.
Therefore, our allocation is such that majority of the traffic comes onto the website and the sales happen
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Then, of course, you have commissions and markdowns or exhibitions. I would put them together because about 30 to 40% as a commission goes out to these other channels. That would be a smaller chunk, I would say, for us because our
Mhm.
focus has been our website from day one.
Yeah, and I think it will also depend truly on a product category. Like there's a
Mhm.
high chance that certain, like if I think about, like items which are less than 1,000 rupees, they will perform
Mhm.
really well at a lot of pop-ups and events.
Mhm.
So I think it's also about product category specific as to what might work better for someone.
So also, like
Okay.
things like I mean, if you look at the nature of the business in apparel, particularly in India, June, July onwards is when the uplift happens simply because of the festivities beginning, the entire festive season.
Hmm.
So you know that, in certain months which are slower, which are or which are not as slow, but they're great in terms of sales, you will be
Yeah.
spending a lot more because you know that the ROAS or the returns on that much investment in that period will be far higher because you're also playing with higher price points. As in,
Yeah.
you're working with festive clothes, which are going to be 3 times higher in terms of
Mm.
MRP versus what you otherwise sell throughout the year. So a lot of these things go into
And then
budgeting.
that also
Planning. Yeah.
need specific, like what a child needs will be very different from what a woman needs, right? In terms of
Yeah.
their his behavior. Like when,
Yeah.
when the school year begins, academic year, parents are not spending on kids' clothing. They're spending on uniform, books, school fees. So I think those sort of that is
Hmm.
Also, yeah, like a month like June,
Hmm.
it would be parents are focused more on the school expenses. So you will see a little slowdown in terms of sale. And then July again is
Hmm.
Ramadi on, so festivities pick up. So these are patterns, and I think your budgets, of course, in a market like India, will then have to consider these things.
These factors. Yeah, there's a lot of factors what I understand. And how was your experience with Shopify as a platform that you have been using? And you said that you are a little bit of tech savvy, you have been doing it yourself.
Hmm.
How's your experience so far? Like, was it been uh, perfectly how you want it to be?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a tool, it gives you so much. I think it has been life changing for us as a tool because when we started off, it was so easy. It was literally like a plug and play kind of a model, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so beautiful, so intuitive, so well designed. Um, so I also the type of apps and tools and everything that can actually be plugged in together to give you what you want.
Hmm.
Payment gateway, ease of collecting payments. At that point in time, figuring
Yeah, yeah, that time was very difficult.
it was all so simple. It was actually they have a 14-day trial period. When you start on
Yeah,
it, that's
yeah.
what they had. And I think in that 14 days we managed to do everything to
Oh,
get our
lovely.
website up and about. So you can imagine how simple that process would have been because if you would otherwise give it to
Hmm.
a team and develop a website for you, you know that it will take about 3 months easily.
Yeah, yeah.
So the ability to be able to generate business revenue and create something is so much easier and quicker.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, if I have to highlight like three Shopify the plugins that you use that's been most useful for you,
Wow.
you
Mhm.
Mm.
Three shop.
whatever coming to your mind. That's it.
So actually, no, I'm just thinking. We have a lot of tools which are already inbuilt because of the theme that we're using. So
Oh, okay. You
yeah.
can
So,
highlight that as well. Like,
so actually, yeah, I mean that's something. I think when we were researching our theme, we had to ensure that all the also being bootstrapped and being very clear about the budgets we are playing with, we had to pick up something which had everything that we required
yeah,
as a theme.
yeah,
So we'll either pay that one-time fee in one go, get everything in place, rather than
yeah,
have like a monthly subscription going out every month.
yeah.
But I think a lot of tools which for accounting, like we have this Webplanix GST tool, which is there for invoicing and for GST. I think that was a big
Okay.
game changer for me because accounting was a big one. And being uh,
Hmm.
managing everything single-handedly, like both of us independently doing everything, our hands into like hazard things, simple things like accounting software or things which are not our expertise.
Hmm.
These all tools were very did help us big time. Um,
Okay.
then of course we also have a platform Relove which is there on our
Hmm.
website, which again is an app right now. That's a beautiful tech platform because it allows us to offer the option of
Getting return. Yeah, yeah.
we
Use clothes.
have our website.
Pre-loved buyers. Basically, customers amongst themselves can sell and buy.
Oh, look. So that's a part of Shopify itself.
Uh,
Okay.
it's not yeah it's an app which can be plugged into
Yeah,
Shopify.
yeah. I get
We
it.
had that option earlier, but the whole logistics and working and uploading pictures, how do you navigate that channel as a consumer, and for it just made it very simple. Relove as a tool, so we have that as a tech platform also on our back end. I think yeah,
Mhm.
these
And
little
even like
things.
small apps and tools for like leaving reviews or
Yeah.
having loyalty points.
Oh yeah, the reward
Got
point.
it.
Points. I think all of those are so easy to sort of plug
Yeah,
in.
integrate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Sure. And at the moment, how are you driving traffic to international market if you have to focus on? Is it coming organically, uh,
Right.
or are you doing paid promotion as well?
Right now, we're not doing any paid advertising in that space. We are organically. I think we have from the start been able to get that audience on the website.
I think Singapore as a market is now
Growing for
growing
us.
for us.
Okay.
We also have a dedicated partner there, so that has been quite helpful.
Hmm.
How come Singapore? Like, is it very specific? Because of your partnerships.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Who also happens to be a Love Birthday customer, so it's great.
Oh, lovely.
Tried, tested, loved the products, and
Okay.
then
They can vouch for the quality and also be able to be great ambassadors for the brand.
Okay.
I think it's also about the kind of weather that Singapore has in terms of
Yeah,
humidity.
it's similar. I
Yeah,
think.
so I think the kind of clothes that work here will work there beautifully. A huge
Mm.
Indian market also with respect. So in terms of seasonality or offerings, not much tweaking has to be done with respect to what you're offering to the
Mhm.
Indian market versus Singapore market. And I think that was just the low-hanging fruit for us. But yeah, that's just one of the stepping stones to a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. So, I mean, I think one for you to understand the customer is pretty easy because you are targeting very specific parents and probably young kids. So, identifying the customers and probably targeting them through communities or organic or ads has been pretty easy for you. Is there, apart from that, do you try to kind of analyze that who are actually coming to your sites and buying them by talking to them or any kind of tools that you use to understand who are these guys and why are they buying and any patterns that you find?
So in terms of course, solid data, a lot of it is available on the back end in terms of analytics, which we keep reviewing from time to time.
Yeah.
But being a researcher, as in
Mhm.
I have spent a lot of time in consumer insights.
Mhm.
I think Dipna and I have also in the past gone back to our customers, done like detailed qualitative feedback and interviews with them. Even
Mhm.
when we've been working on a new line altogether or launching a sub brand, we did an extensive exercise amongst our existing customers who are also
Mhm.
loyalists to understand does this make sense to them in terms of branding, in terms of offering, in terms of exact product silhouettes, prints, colors, feedback, across the across all of these aspects. So yeah, we do go back and speak to our customers very often, and also I think very interestingly, um, Dipna and I, for whenever we have pop-ups or events, and also because the first 2-3 years we were a very lean team, we were the ones who were interacting on Instagram, on mails. We were the customers,
Mhm.
okay, technically
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we have actually spent a lot of time talking to customers, um, like one on one, being able to personally connect with them. A lot of our customers are now our very dear friends. So that's
Yeah. Nice.
growth for us, as a brand. So I
Yeah.
think that engagement, a lot of our customers actually come and who are now our friends also are a part of our photo shoots, every quarter
Yeah.
when we launch new.
Oh, nice.
So that's
Okay.
the kind of ongoing engagement we have with quite a few of them, and we are very very accessible as people. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think that really helps to get first-hand feedback on what's going right, what's going wrong.
Did you find a lot of returns in this sector, like
Uh,
because of
that's
kids?
that's something we are very very proud about.
Okay.
We have returns of less than 1%.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
something. Usually, it's very high in
No,
profits.
I mean
Yeah.
marketplaces we don't see returns. In fact, that's very interesting because we know that places we do see a higher return. But in case of
Hmm.
World today, even though we offer an exchange return on marketplaces, um, less than
Okay.
1%. I
Probably
think,
because yeah.
I think two, three things. One is the transparency you offer in terms of what the product actually is, pictures
Yeah.
was what you receive, and
Hmm.
number three, I would feel sizing. I think that's something we have invested a lot of time and energy into. And also because we were not from textile as a background, for us to get that right in terms of cracking
Hmm.
tech sheets and sizing for children was an extensive exercise which lasted us a year. I would be honest, like 2015,
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time doing that. So
Okay.
I think once you have your basics right, the need for returns, and you're very transparent as a brand as to what
Hmm.
you're offering, I don't think that should be a big concern.
Yeah, I think because also you're working with a conscious kind of customers who are researching and buying by their own choice, unlike this Myntra or the marketplaces where people are just coming and custom shopping,
Yeah.
random shopping, impromptu. So there's high returns. So let's just switch gear a little bit about your operations a little bit. So how are you currently going about your product sourcing and manufacturing? I think you do every manufacturing in-house mostly, right? And
Yeah.
the sourcing of your vendors and how do you go about it?
Yeah, so production, of course, is we have a dedicated team, but we
Mm.
also do contract manufacturing.
Okay.
In terms of sourcing, I think we've been very clear, like all the areas we work in, whether it's GOT certified organic cotton, then we of
Mm.
course work only with GOT certified organic vendors,
Mm-hmm.
where we have the transparency of the license number, the TC and everything. That's how we operate when it comes to organic cotton. We have dedicated vendors who we've been working with for the last 7-8 years.
Okay.
Weaver communities, we have been building this over time. We work extensively with 3-4 regions, and
Okay.
we work with them on a continuous basis. So the idea is to be able to have as much depth as possible within one community rather than spreading to spreading across. So we have identified our weaver communities in various regions.
Mm-hmm.
We work with time on basis like if it's festive, then we have a dedicated community of weavers. We work for a regular clothing, loungewear, whatever. So these partners we work with, I think we've been working with over the last 5 to 6 years. So
Mm.
it's a long relationship. Um, yeah, and I think initially it did take a lot of time to figure and identify partners, but I think once
Yeah.
figured and identified, we have been able to stick and be able to contribute and create an impact within that community.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think primarily it is GOT certified cotton, or working with
Weaver.
weavers or artisans. When I mean artisans, then it's like clusters where we're working with block printing as a method,
or bandhani.
or natural dyes,
Mm-hmm.
shibori, etc. So those then again are very specific communities, and we
Okay.
only work with them every time we need to sort of
Source.
source.
Got
I
it.
think to build that trust takes a while, both ways,
Mm.
because also for them to know that the payment will come, in the stipulated time, or
Mm.
work is like committed work, or what is the expectation
Mm.
setting in terms of, because so much of it is handmade, right?
Yeah.
What gets rejected or what gets approved, or what
Mm.
is the quality benchmark that you're setting. I think building that relationship takes a while,
Mm.
and for us also to know what to expect, because often with these textiles, manufacturing or production is not easy. They have to be
Yeah.
cut a certain way, they have to be layered a certain way, they
Yeah.
have to go through certain processes so that they can be stretched out properly and then cut. So I think it's a both way process of building trust, and
Mm.
essential that one invests time in these relationships.
Mm.
Like even with you, we've worked so much with you also, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we're able to have this conversation today, because
Yeah.
there has to be that trust that, okay, I know if I'm working with this person knows what my expectation is and what I want to give to my customer.
And
Yeah.
it will be very interesting because there are a lot of things that we wouldn't know, like simple things, simple processes like calendaring. Like we were also, when we were working with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Simple.
a lot of these learnings, it's been very beautiful because in our journey, whoever we've met, we've tried to educate both
Learn.
ways,
Mm.
like this is the challenge we have. So how do we figure this out? And when you're working at the grassroots level, often
Mm.
we come across these challenges. So it's
Mm.
beautiful that, how as a community we've been able to figure solutions, arrive at how things will work, or when it's an order from Love the World today, what are the 10 things you need to keep in mind, or there are going to be these challenges, talk about it at the start of the engagement and all of that.
Mm.
And
Mm.
there are also some artisan communities where we work directly. So there is no middle person. So then I go to these villages, we spend time there, where
Okay.
sampling is
Okay.
happening and final approvals are happening. And it's a lovely time because we also get to show them pictures of customers. Who are
Yeah.
the people who are wearing
Yeah.
these clothes, and where are the textiles going? What gets made out
Mm.
of it? And often they're just shocked because they are. It's hard for them to believe that we're making kids' clothes out of these textiles,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
silhouettes that they finally turn into, and that sometimes gives them information and more.
Yeah. Motivated and as well.
Oh, okay. So then this motive doesn't work, because for an adult garment it can be spread out or a certain
Mm.
size, but for a kid's garment, it can't. Like if you have
Yeah. It was too big. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like that sort of understanding, or our color palettes are sometimes unusual, so they feel like, but how are you working with
Recon Pelega?
then to show them how it's being transformed, and then they also recognize that, okay, if you're doing this sort of pastel tone and dyeing it, it'll look patchy. So
Yeah.
our suggestion would be don't do this. So I
Hmm.
think that becomes a very essential part, and also for us to understand and recognize their timelines,
Hmm.
their communities, because okay, if it's festival season time, like for example, Durga Puja time, that anything in Bengal is not going to happen only, and
Hmm.
it's important to respect that. So then
Hmm.
to work backward and plan your timelines also,
Hmm.
knowing that okay, then how do you plan the production process?
Hmm.
So I think it's a beautiful give and take.
Hmm.
Is where I think we have managed to reach so far. And
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you can actually impact so much in terms of
Hmm.
number of lives you're able to touch, or the amount of
Just keep the craft alive.
keep the craft alive in our own capacity, whatever we can,
Hmm.
and also to be able to create so much work for yourself and for everybody around you
Yeah.
in whatever capacity. Again, I think that itself is very. It gives you a lot of. It's very like you get a lot of,
Fulfilling.
yeah,
Yeah.
very fulfilling.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
end of the day.
But do you also want to like have to, as per the customer demand, diversify into multiple craft to offer a variety of crafts and designs, or do you, as you said, like you specifically pick to certain kind of crafts and textiles and styles? Is that then the customer look for more varieties? Suppose working with a, does that create
Um,
an impact?
I think customers look for more variety, yes, but not so much in terms of craft always. For them,
Yeah.
it's about colors, prints, this, that.
Mm.
Like for example, we've been working with the same group of weavers for all our Diwali collections over the last 6 years now. How much more creative can you get? Because with that hand weaving method, there's only this much that you can do.
Yeah.
But we have the same set of customers coming and buying 6 years in a row. So
Mm.
that they also, I think, understand the quality, finish, those things. Then, of course, we play with colors and motifs or
Mm.
selvages and those things or the silhouettes. But
Mm.
no, I feel like for us also, we want to tap into more crafts and arts
Mm.
across the
Mm.
country. But it's not a race that we're part of. We want to also take our time to really make sure that the quality is never impacted, and that
Yeah.
needs time, that needs patience, that needs time to develop a relationship with the hands that are truly making these textiles.
So I think it's actually a learning journey, for us also as we come across more and more, and we explore what more can be done. It's actually like a playground. I mean, there's lots you can do in this space.
Mm.
But every time we discover something new, we're like, okay, how do we bring this, to love the world today as an offering for children? How do we talk about
Mm.
this craft? But I think as customers, I would feel a lot of education and onus to tell them about the crafts lies with the brand, not as much. I just don't feel it's coming more from the customer, but it's more from the brand right now. The way
Yeah.
things are. Because what you're able to offer, what you're able to create, what you're able to do as a storytelling,
Mm.
from the brand side, I would say.
Okay. Lovely. And how are you involved in the designing? Because something you don't come from the design background. So if you have to design, what is the process that you follow, and the platform and the processes?
So I think the first couple of years, Dipti and I were only designing. And a lot of it came because we're sisters. I think, there is so much from our childhood that is shared and
Yeah.
joyous that becomes a start point and inspiration for us. Our
Okay.
mom used to make clothes a lot.
Oh,
So
lovely.
she's somebody we keep going back to on the drawing
Okay.
board and, taking advice and opinion from.
Mm. Mm.
So I think that was a start point, and our aesthetic is also quite similar. It's a very like instant yes, no. We know like what
Mm.
we like, and I think that is something that has been a guiding point for us. Now,
Mm.
of course, we do have a small design team, but
Mm.
the initial brief, approvals, thought process all comes still from us.
Mm.
I think for me, it's also about I've spent so much time as an early years educator that how children move and play and what needs to be comfortable for them in that is of uh, is of core importance, I feel, to our,
Mm.
and then to also address pain points of parents, because then that's where the steps in.
Yeah, because I
Is
mean,
that-
having a child in the house and
Mm.
somebody who's actually, modeling the clothes or piloting the clothes for you, sampling them or trying them on,
Mm.
you know exactly what they need at a certain age, and as they grow, what are the requirements and how things change.
And the fact that clothes last, clothes should last. Kids' clothes are washed, I don't know how many times. They need to last, you know. And
Yeah.
the details have to be comfortable. Like up until the age of 2.5, 3, kids are not wearing clothes by themselves. Somebody else is doing that. So how
Yeah.
much arm goes in, head goes in, what
Yeah.
is the opening of the neck, you know, what is the mechanism? Because they're just running. Once they start crawling and walking and standing, so after 8 months of age, it's hard. They're not going to stay still for you. So it has to be quick in and out, or you know, silhouettes that allow for more room as they grow. So the sort of elastic that you use, it has to be high quality yet soft. Yet give you room to last at least 1.5 to 2 years. Can you know a long skirt then become a short skirt? Can a dress then be worn as a top? All these little details, and kids love pockets. You know, give them those because they're constantly picking little treasures from here and there, which they want to store in their clothes. So those things I think then are
Functionality and how it's going to be.
Okay. And this you learned this you learned by intuitively because you have a kid from that aspect, or you have like learned this through the customers and site itself.
I think this
No,
came
this-
naturally
this
to us
is truly
from
with the amount of time
Yeah.
we have both, like her being a mother and me being an educator, the amount of time we've spent with kids. I mean, and as an early years educator, literally we're studying milestones, you know, and when they sit, when they scroll, when they stand, when they start moving, I mean, all these details are critical to designing for kids.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. So I'll move to a little bit of rapid fire. Just asking few questions. You either of you.
Also after.
Sorry?
I think it's a hamper or something, okay, after this.
They'll come from Karan,
Size
not
hamper.
from me. Yeah. So it's just it's mostly about what you're using, what tools are you using properly, a brand you're looking up to. So I'll just share and like first with if you have to name one platform or tool that has the most significant impact on your business, what would that be, and why probably?
Platform that has the most do you mean like a tech platform, or do you mean
Any kind of platform in the sense of whatever something you're using apart from the concept of the brands you have created and everything. So something has been very crucial for you.
I think, of course, I would say Shopify and Instagram. Yeah, for our growth from the start, I think these two would be, very, very
Okay.
hygiene.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you feel like an area of business that's probably struggling a little bit, which needs some kind of transformation? It can be a digital transformation in the sense of bringing in something like more of a tool or something platform to manage that, which is not happening properly.
I don't know about that, but I think for most brands, as a challenge now would be how creative you can get with marketing. That's something I think plays on our mind quite a bit as to how do we do things differently, because I feel like everything has a curve, like when we started off, Facebook, Instagram was there. But now there are other tools coming in. You have to figure out other ways to reach to customers and all. You look at the costs that are associated with each of these platforms. So I think we need to figure. You always have to figure out. Okay, how do
very
you
quick to
reach?
adapt.
But you're doing that internally, right? You're not working with an outside agency or something.
No. So far, whatever we have done is internally. Our team is digital leverage managed in house.
The next one is: are there any innovative products or concepts in the fashion world or the landscape that excite you that you're seeing coming up?
I think textiles.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting development in textiles. Like I think that is something we want to deep dive into. Textile out of hemp, bamboo. A lot of these options that
recycled. Just to understand the pros and cons, how do things work, and is that something that we can adapt to what we're already offering? I think that is one interesting bit that's happening in the textile space, and I think also the growth of sustainable fashion across the globe. So much noise around this space, vis-a-vis where we were in 2015. I think those two things would be interesting to watch for.
Yeah. So yeah, the textile related, actually I had another podcast before this. So yeah, I got to know there's like textile for Malai. It was like coconut. Um,
Yeah, yes.
there's all those things coming up. Cactus. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I find very exciting. That
Yeah. So now there's a lot of innovative textiles coming up.
but I also worry because I feel like eventually all businesses want to scale. Then like everything can't be scalable, right?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that's I feel like that's my constant worry.
Yeah. Slow fashion, then the
Yeah.
slow fashion won't stay. Is there a particular fashion business or startup that you admire or look up to?
Um,
It can be
I think
multiple.
I think in India, I really admire No Nasties.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean we know Appu also quite well, and I first met him when he had just started No Nasties, and they were only making t-shirts. But I
We all started pretty early. Yeah.
yeah, and I really admire like just the transparency they give to their customers.
Mm.
And the campaigns are fun. The clothing is so fun. Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. Anyone outside India that you said?
Actually, I'll come back to India. Even Pero as a brand, I
Okay.
absolutely love what they're doing with Indian textiles and
Embroidery and things.
yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah.
just
Yeah,
beautiful.
this is really good. And if you have to highlight any individual or entrepreneurs or designers who acted as a source of inspiration for you?
Individual, I would say to a great extent, our parents. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, a lot of our collections literally are called and designed from our childhood. So I think for Love the World today, our creative source has been the way our parents have raised us. And I think that's also why the love for nature and environment is so embedded in our systems because
Mhm.
of the amount of time our dad made sure we spent in nature. Even in a city like Bombay,
Mm.
the sort of connection and association, just hearing them value things like food, meal times, going out in the garden, very small things that we might take for granted on the everyday. But
Yeah.
fact that, and I don't think they were also drilling it in us. It was just how they are and who they were.
Mm.
That has like been such a core part of our memories now. Goes on to say that what you give to children at that point becomes their their security blanket and being and what they love and respect about the world and how they see the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And if you have to provide one networking or valuable tip to the current, the fashion community or probably upcoming entrepreneurs and designers to understand and navigate through this slow fashion world, what one tip would be?
Networking tip.
Like to explore and understand and come into the market.
Hmm.
So
I
one, I talked about communities, I think initially, but I don't know how much active communities are these days.
communities, but I feel like a lot of the homegrown brands, people are very lovely and accessible. All you have to do is reach out, and I think that's how we have made a lot of friends in the system because it's literally just reach out and ask, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Do you use this app? If you do, what have you? Sometimes it's as small as that. So be fearless in reaching out.
Mhm.
Also, be fearless in offering support
Mm.
because that goes a long way. Everybody's needing support in some way or the other. So if you have something, share. If they have something, to give, ask. And
Mm.
that's the only way. I think just listen more and be fearless in sharing and giving also.
Okay. Nice. So that's the end of our rapid fire. I just one last question for the podcast today. What is the future vision for the business or for Club the World today for you?
I think eventually we want to have a space for children, which has everything from art to theater to culture to clothes, everything in one space. Um, yeah, we just hope that at the end of all of this, whatever world we leave back for our children,
Yeah.
I think they're able to do much better than what we did as a generation.
Yeah.
We're hoping they're able to leave those values and those
Mm.
conversations with everyone who touches upon or who comes across love the world. So hoping to leave an impact wherever possible.